What's good, y'all? It's your man Sight, and today I want to walk you guys through a dope beat that I made using the new F9 expansion that comes with the MPC One. Now, other Akai MPC users can use this if you can get your hands on it. A lot of us in the MPC Gang group actually did get our hands on it, and I think Akai was pretty pissed. They talked to a few people and said that it's not a free expansion. It's meant to only come with the MPC One, but it's kind of like if you're gonna leave the link open. So I don't know, that was kind of weird. However, the expansion is really dope. If you can't get your hands on it, I highly suggest it. It's got some really usable instruments, everything from basses to plucks to strings to horns. I think it's fire. Now, also going forward, I want to talk to you guys about equipment. I'm actually going to be upgrading my studio. I have really old equipment. Now, I'm a big proponent of using what you have. So I'm not into buying a bunch of stuff I don't need. However, a lot of my equipment is, man, anywhere between 10 and 15 years old. And while it still works in a lot of ways, some of it's starting to malfunction, the drivers don't work. So I'm looking to upgrade my interface, my speakers, and probably some of my microphones going forward. Now, if you guys have suggestions on the types of products that you recommend, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear about some of the stuff that's on the market that you guys are using. But I want to start reviewing these products, and I'll be sharing the results with you guys in videos going forward in the future. So product reviews, but really focused towards producers. Now, being that I do other stuff other than music production, I consider myself just a media content producer in general. So I do photography, web design, graphic design, and apparel, which I'll show you guys more of that process as well. Music production has always been my base. It's where I started my career, but the visuals kind of took over about 8 or 9 years ago, and I ended up putting music on the back burner for about 4 or 5 years. While I still love making music and it is my main passion, I can't lie, the visuals are the bread and butter. So I'm gonna show you guys how I kind of do things with that, show you how I build my business with that in different ways. So with no further ado, let's get in the lab, check out this expansion, all right? Let's get busy. All right, y'all, so we are back in the lab, and I'm gonna walk y'all through how I put this banger together, all right? Now, I was actually thinking like, man, I would love to make a beat right now using this expansion that would fit maybe Benny the Butcher, basically that whole Griselda family, right? So I wanted to go really dark, gritty drums, kind of a slower tempo. I mean, they tend to use stuff that's like under 90 BPM is like Griselda territory all day. So it was gonna be kind of a slower beat, but I wanted to go really grimy, really sinister, all right? I started off with a drum break. Very simple drum break. It's actually just 3 hits. Went ahead and just hit the trim button. It's normally on trim. I changed it to chop. And I went in and cut it into 3 sections. I did it using the lazy chop and then just refined it with the Q links. And once I chopped it up, it sounded like this. Once the 3 notes were chopped, I went ahead and hit the program tab down on the bottom, and you'll see the assign button. So one by one, I hit assign, assigned each slice to a different pad. You can see on my drum program, I had it in 3 pads. Now, I actually slowed down the drums because they were hitting a little too fast for the tempo that I wanted. I selected up here on the top, hit multiple, chose all 3 pads, and then I hit the warp button. And I adjusted the BPM to 88 so it would hit on the tempo that I wanted. And I adjusted the BPM to 88. Now I kind of experimented with it until it was at the tempo that I wanted. I wanted the drums to kind of drag out a little more than they were for the tempo that I had. I wanted to do it at 80 BPM. So the BPM doesn't matter on the program edit so much. It only matters if you're trying to sync an entire loop. In this case, it's drums. So I just used the BPM measure here. I could have used the stretch percentage as well, but I just used the BPM as another alternate method of doing it. And I changed the BPM until the drums stretched out as long as I needed them. So once they were long enough to where I liked them, I went ahead and laid them down. Now you'll hear those drums are really loose. I didn't use any quantize at all. I basically just went in there, manually programmed them the way I wanted them, and I kind of experimented till I got it right. Now I knew I was gonna need a hi-hat, so I went into my browser, found a couple hi-hats that I liked. And once I threw them in, I used a closed hat and an open hat. and this is what it sounded like. Now I played the pad manually by hand, and I used different levels on the closed hat, so that's why it sounded real dynamic. A lot of times I'll open up 16 levels, turn it to velocity, and then in this case I just kind of did it by hand. So once we got our drums knocking, I knew I was going to want a bass line. So I went and found a simple, grimy kind of bass note. Kind of sounds like an 808, like a gritty, dirty 808, but I don't think it is an 808. I think it's just a sub bass. And I thought that was a really dope, kind of sinister pattern. That's some hard shit right there. All right, so we're rocking. We got the drums, we got the bass line. Now it's time to get some instruments in this joint. Let's open the F9. So I went into my expansions, found the F9, which was right here, and I just went through. Check out some different programs here. Man, that horn hit me immediately. So I said, okay, it's called the trailer horn. It does sound like a Mack truck or something coming at you. So I said, all right, let me load that up. I hit the load button, put that on the track. Now that one was aggressive too. So I said, okay, maybe I can layer the horns. I just went ahead and loaded that up as well. Woo. Yeah, that had like a real 70s funk kind of feel to it. I thought it was cool, so I figured, hey, maybe we can throw that in somehow. Went ahead and loaded that up as well, and I thought I can make it happen with those three instruments. Maybe I'll sprinkle some little stuff in later, but that should do it. So next I want to lay down that guitar. So I put the key group on track 6 and went ahead and laid down something really simple. Also unquantized. Played it on the keyboard. And it's the same note, I just used different octaves. Next it's time to add in some of those horns. So I went ahead and added the truck horns first. And this is the pattern I came up with. And let's throw it all in together. On fire right now. I'm already in the zone with that, but I'm like, okay, I got this other layer of horns. Let's see if we can add some lower octaves in the scale using the additional horns. All right, so at this point, I feel like the beat is almost complete. I went ahead and copied the sequence into multiple sequences. I made a main sequence, a build-up sequence, and a hook. And the build-up is just basically getting ready for the hook. I also duplicated it one more time to make an intro. And the intro is just gonna be the drums and the bass line. Now the build-up, I wanted it to be some of the horns, but not all of them. And I wanted the drums to drop out at the end of the 8th bar to get ready for the hook. As you guys probably know by now, that's kind of one of my techniques. Make sure it changes up right before you get to the chorus. Now, I also wanted to go with a real 90s vibe. And a big thing we did back then, we had limited sample time. So we go in and we find a horn sound, something like this. And a key sound like this. And I like to call them accent sounds. So we would throw those in, and a cheap technique we would use, because a lot of people didn't have delays and stuff like that back in the day. They were pretty expensive getting rack mount units. You would hear cats like Pete Rock and different SP1200 producers take a horn sound like this, put it on 16 levels, except they would do it on the fader with the SP1200. So I kind of used that technique, which is an old school technique, which gave the beat like a real vintage flavor. One last change up at the end. Had to throw a scratch in. So yeah, I definitely heard Griselda all over that one. Conway, Benny the Butcher, Westside Gun. I mean, those guys are incredible. Real vintage sound they got, and this is kind of like my twist on a Griselda beat using that F9 expansion. So I hope you guys liked it. If you have questions about how I did anything, if I missed anything, want a breakdown, feel free to leave a comment down below. And once again, I'd love to hear you guys' suggestions for equipment. Like I said, my stuff's kind of old. Monitors are pushing 20 years old. Interface is pushing 10, 12 years old. It's time to update. Also, the MPC Gang merch is on the website, iamsight.com, along with a bunch of drum kits that I put on there, free of charge. And make sure to check us out once again on Facebook, MPC Gang. Look us up, we'll pop right up. Love to have you in the group if you're making beats using one of the MPC units. So that'll do it for this video. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll check you on the next one. Peace.